A bus driver in Georgia is suspended after a video went viral. Kids seen climbing out of windows to get off the bus.
Yeah, witnesses say the trouble started with a substitute bus driver and the confusion over when to release the students to parents. One parent was even caught on camera hitting the driver after the driver pushed that parent. Fox's Kevin Stewart has this story.
With police on hand, the normal, everyday school drop-off went off without a hitch. That's not what happened Wednesday. Take a look at this witness video. That's a small child being pulled from a school bus window. And listen, an alarm blasting as the emergency back door flies open. Kids running out, waved on by adults.
One parent, a lady, she tries to rush into the bus. Why are you closing the door where our kids are there? She punched the lady. Yeah.
Gerald Nyanyu says the normally simple school drop-off got out of control Wednesday. He says parents were stunned and frustrated because the substitute school bus driver would not let all of the students off, including his two boys.
They said, okay, that's our dad. The bus driver said, how do I know?
Paulding County Schools confirms that a substitute driver is suspended pending an investigation into this incident. Dallas PD is checking into it as well. Sources familiar with the school system's policy say ID must be used to pick up children 10 and under.
It might have been a lot of confusion with her being a new sub, but I can see where I would rather her ask, where's your parent, than just dropping my kid off.
Did the bus driver ever ask you for ID?
The lady? No, no way. Normally when the parents are here, the kids just walk down from the bus and you take them out.
Kevin Stewart, Fox News.
You know, the video went viral. I saw it. And what got me, you know, you've got these parents and the bus driver, you know, adults going at it. But when, you know, she decided to pull off the terror, you know, in the kids' screams, because they, of course, wanted to get off the bus and join their parents. She would not allow some of them. And that's what really shook me to my core, how sometimes as adults, you know, we make matters worse and it affects our young people. It looks like all around, maybe fault on both sides, but this school district needs to take a look and revisit policy and what actually is supposed to be the proper procedure when dropping off kids. There seems to be some confusion which caused this melee, and it was a terrifying video, especially for those young people who did just not understand what was going on. Why couldn't they get off the bus and be with their mom or dad or guardian or whatever? Yeah, and just another example of parents also behaving badly. I mean, you know, yes, folks may have disagreements with bus drivers and other school officials, but you know, when it crosses the line and it becomes a physical altercation, we're not modeling the best behavior for our kids. And dare I say, it probably made an uncomfortable experience, a traumatic experience, even more traumatic for those kids. Yeah, and she shouldn't have pulled off. She pulled off with kids as they were going back and forth. She pulled off. She probably should have stayed maybe close the door and maybe call school officials or the authorities. She shouldn't have pulled off with those kids in the bus. That's my opinion. Yeah. According to what was seen on video. All right, moving on. According to a study in the Journal of Youth and Adolescence, online racial discrimination or harassment has a negative effect on the academic and emotional well-being of students of color. Girls in this study had, on average, 1 to 3 more social media accounts than boys. Girls reported depression levels that were higher than those of boys, suggesting more depressive symptoms among girls. Black teens reported almost 10% more online experiences of discrimination than their Hispanic counterparts. Online racial discrimination and harassment represents a unique risk for teenagers of color. Not only are they more likely to see and pose more race-related content, but when this race-related content is negative, it has harmful effects on mental health, academics, and overall behavior. A Prisma Health pilot program designed to reduce the adverse health outcomes that Black women disproportionately face will support doula services for expectant Black mothers across the upstate and Midlands beginning early summer 2023. Similar programs in North Carolina, Virginia, and Washington, D.C.
have shown positive results for mothers and their babies. According to March of Dimes in South Carolina, Black women accounted for about a third of live births from 2018 to 2020. However, sources say Black maternal deaths accounted for over 40% of all pregnancy-related deaths between 2016 and 2021. Now, according to Prisma, a clinical study has shown that doula services could lead to shorter labors with fewer complications, fewer interventions, and greater success with breastfeeding.
And Black people are almost 4 times as likely to be diagnosed with renal failure as white people, but many are often diagnosed late, and it takes longer to get on transplant lists. Now, that's because of an antiquated kidney function test that can overestimate kidney function in Black patients, masking the severity of their kidney disease and results in late diagnosis and delayed transplant referrals. Now, in what experts are calling an unprecedented move to correct racial inequality in access to kidney transplants, the Organ Procurement and Transplantation Network Board recently approved a waiting time adjustment for Black transplant candidates. Now, the policy requires kidney transplant programs to identify and notify Black candidates who should have qualified sooner.
Now, the process of transitioning isn't easy. It can be intimidating, isolating, and scary. In 2020, when a Black trans man started his medical transition, he joined a transgender support group at an LGBTQ organization in Columbus, but said one thing was missing. The people didn't look like him. Chris Goins, founder of Black Trans Men of Ohio, started an organization to change this, with anti-transgender legislation circulating around state houses in the U.S. and in Ohio. Goins said it's even harder for Black transgender people to live in their truth. Since the launch of Black Trans Men of Ohio in late 2020, Goins has connected more than 80 trans masculine or masculine presenting non-binary people with resources like gender affirming care, free hormone replacement therapy, supplies, hair clippers, hygiene essentials, therapy, and much more. And this is, really good to see. It's good to see that, Mr. Chris Goins of Ohio is creating space for Black trans men, because oftentimes when we report on trans issues, we forget that Black folks are trans folks too. So, hat tip to Chris Goins and in Ohio for creating space where previously he didn't see space for.
Yeah, and it's good to hear stories like this, because I'm one to be educated, for news and information, to put me up on what's happening, because I think for me, that level of awareness, you hear about transgender, this transgender community all the time, and the different challenges, but specifically for Black men, very interesting. It's kind of like the who knew kind of moment. And so I can appreciate stories like this that let me know what's happening in areas that I might not be so familiar with.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We, here at the Black Report, we understand that Black folks are not a monolith.
There we go.
And this is an example of what we're talking about. Black trans folks are just as much a part of our community as anybody else.
Indeed. All right, she's been on TV in Atlanta covering some of Georgia's biggest news stories for nearly 30 years. And for the last year, Angelique Proctor has also battled stage 2 stomach cancer. After covering so many stories, she felt like it was important to be honest and open about her very own.
16 months after her surprise cancer diagnosis, Angelique Proctor is back to reporting full-time on Fox 5.
I feel great. All is well.
And her life is getting back to normal.
It's fairly amazing how well I'm doing. I have energy. I'm working out. I'm eating.
It's been a long road since we first talked in the fall of 2021, a few weeks after doctors found a large tumor hidden underneath some bleeding ulcers in Angelique's stomach. She had been feeling fatigued and run down for weeks, but stage 2 stomach cancer?
It was absolutely unbelievable when they gave me that news, because I had been so healthy. I run the Peachtree, I exercise. I eat pretty healthily.
Angelique had what's known as a gastrointestinal stromal tumor, or a GIST, that was at least 13 centimeters, or just over 5 inches in size.
So this tumor was adherent to her diaphragm, her liver, her pancreas, spleen.
Emory St. Joseph's Dr. Josh Weiner, Angelique's surgeon, says the tumor was also in a tricky place, wrapped around the top part of her stomach. So instead of undergoing surgery right away, Angelique began taking a targeted treatment, a daily pill known as Gleevec, to shrink the tumor. And within a month or two, she says it was working better than anyone expected.
We were blown away. Max and I were like looking at each other, like, this is unbelievable.
But if she hadn't responded and hadn't stopped bleeding, we would have had to take out her whole stomach, as well as her spleen, part of her pancreas, part of the diaphragm. So it was extremely important to have that shrink the way it did.
By August of 2022, the tumor was down to 7 centimeters, and it was time to take it out.
You know, surgery was very intimidating. It was a major operation. I asked him so many things. Take a picture while you're in there. Let my husband know if you got it all.
There was a small chance if the tumor was still attached to much of the stomach wall, Dr. Weiner would have to remove Angelique's entire stomach. But that didn't happen.
Literally, the actual amount of stomach we took out was about this much. so a few centimeters.
And from the start, Angelique says she has clung to the belief that she will beat this cancer.
It's something that my father wasn't able to do. And it's something that I want to do for him. Because he died of pancreatic cancer in 2009. And I watched him suffer. And it's just something I've never forgotten. So when I heard that I had cancer, I was just ferocious in my fight against it.
The experience has refined her faith and her focus.
It's made me understand what's really important. It's been a wake-up call. I think I'm more grateful. I understand God's grace and His mercy more now than ever. And I take nothing for granted.
Not her husband, Max, not their 3 girls, not her mom.
I've always loved my family, but I hold them tighter now because sometimes I think I was so busy in life, that I didn't pinch myself. But now I understand that every moment is precious. Every moment.
And Angelique will stay on Gleevec for at least the next 3 years, and she started getting scans every 3 months.
Now I'm looking forward to, I guess, year 5. You are cancer-free. That's the goal now.
Wow, what an amazing story, testimony. Our thanks to Beth Galvin for that. We gotta listen to our bodies.
Yeah.
I'm glad, she finally did, or got to a place where she did, listen. It's the rigmarole, the everyday of the everyday, trying to stay afloat, trying to stay ahead. We all have different responsibilities with family members and our careers and our social lives. And sometimes the very thing that we need to pay attention to, our bodies, we don't. We often talk about health is wealth. We often talk about how if you don't have your health, you really don't have anything. So it's stories like this that really drive that point home. And wow, having gone through a health crisis myself, I'm really glad that she was able to survive that, and she's continuing to survive that, and that she's already learned some of the lessons that has brought her. That experience has brought her.
And bless her for sharing those lessons with so many of us, for taking us on this journey with her. Angelique Proctor is just a powerful demonstration of faith. And the little tidbit that I really enjoyed from that story was that she clung to the belief that she would beat cancer, something that her father struggled with when he was dealing with pancreatic cancer. And it's just another example of the power of belief. The power of belief. It's not the only thing. It's a part of it. It's not all of it. But I would imagine that in some of the darkest days when she was fighting cancer for her life, that belief that she could overcome this, that she would overcome this, I'm sure that was a big part of why she's still here and why we're sharing this story. And so for our soulmates that are watching this story that may be in cancer treatment themselves or, waiting to hear that they have finally beat cancer, I hope that this story inspires them.
Indeed, indeed.
Up next, it's a traveling museum of Black history.
Yeah, we'll tell you all about it and where you can actually see this exhibit when we return. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report.